If you want to make your paper flowers look more realistic, a great way to do that is to use colouring techniques. In this video, I want to show you how I use them to make my coral charm peony look more lifelike. And we're going to focus on the carpels and the stamen, which together make up the centre of our paper peony. If you haven't already seen the full coral charm peony tutorial, make sure to check that out for the step-by-step process how to make the flower itself. For the carpels and stamen, we're going to use alcohol markers to add more detail. This is actually a really easy technique to learn, even if you're a beginner to paper flower making. I do recommend that you use alcohol markers rather than a regular marker though. The way that the ink moves and dries is very different. You don't need anything fancy. I got a set of 80 markers for less than $30 Canadian. I'll link them in the description box for you. You'll want a cherry red and then a dark pink for the carpels. And then for the stamen, a bright yellow, a mustard yellow and a beige. You can also use some of these colours again later on for your leaves, alongside the two browns that you see here. Just to note, I have found that the colours on the end of the marker cap are not that accurate, so make sure that you do a quick test on some scrap paper before you get started. Starting with the carpels, we're just going to add a darker colour to the end of the pink detail. First, take the dark pink and then just lightly brush the edge of the paper with the fine end of your marker. You'll see that the ink starts to bleed down the paper a little bit. Go quite lightly with this. You can always just come back and add more if you need to. You can also gently run the marker along the inside of the paper curve too. Repeat that for each of the carpels. Then you can go back in with the red and do the same thing. Try not to draw a straight line when you're doing this, just lightly stroke the paper and let the ink bleed do the rest. That's going to make sure each carpel is slightly different and give us a more natural look. Then for the stamen, take your white crepe paper strips that we cut in the main video and lightly mark 3/4 of an inch from one end of the paper. You can use either of the two yellow markers first. Use that mark as a rough guide and draw lines across the strip with the broad tip of the marker, following the grain lines of the crepe. You can be really rough here, it doesn't need to be precise at all. It's also better if the starting point is slightly different each time anyway, so that you don't end up with a harsh line between the yellow and the white. Repeat that process using the second yellow marker, overlapping some of the previous lines and then filling in some of the gaps too. Also, don't worry about getting the colour all the way to the edge of the paper with every stroke. A little bit of white here is a good thing, as it'll give space for the other marker colours to bleed into. And then finally, fill in the gaps with the light beige marker. Try to do your lines slightly longer here so that they overlap the edge of the yellow line, as using the lighter coloured ink here will help to blur that edge colour. You'll probably find that a lot of the ink will bleed through to the other side, and then you can just take your yellow marker and fill in any white spots on both sides of the paper. Then just repeat that process for all of the crepe paper strips. You can also use the previous strips as a guide to mark your starting point too. You don't need to use the ruler each time. The alcohol markers will dry a little bit lighter, so the colours will soften as it dries. And that is when you'll notice the subtle differences in the colours that makes it look so much more natural. Make sure that you let the strips dry fully before you cut the fringe in the paper in the main tutorial. And that's it. Hopefully you can see how easy it is to make a big difference to your paper flowers using some pretty straightforward techniques. I'd love to know if you give this a try. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have enjoyed it, please give it a like. And don't forget to check out the main paper peony tutorial too. The link is in the description box below. Until next time, happy flower making.